gas-fired power plants, so fossil fuel power plants, and batteries. It's an even bigger increase in spending than even the plant vote. There are some things that we can do about it, and one of the things that I really want to try and do is, even though this decision has been made, I mean, there are still some reasons why we can kind of push back on this, even when I begin as a commissioner on January 1st. These data centers do want clean energy, and in the long term, building fossil fuel power plants for customers that want clean energy is simply not going to work, and that's a big risk here. So what I want to just mention is that I've got a number of good innovations and ideas. So we mentioned it's going to be difficult to power a data center on simply solar alone, but we can use the grid that we already have more efficiently. We can ask those data centers to have just a little bit of flexibility so they don't have to run 24/7, 365. Simple things like that can allow us to use the grid we already have them pay their fair share, and use that to lower folks' power bills. So I just want to leave you with the message that there are a lot of good solutions out there. We're going to be laying the groundwork for a lot of this at the Public Service Commission. We've got 2 commissioners who hear the voice of the people and are working towards this. It's going to take some more effort. We've got to work to get a 3rd commissioner on that Public Service Commission who can help implement the vision. But just know that I'll be at the PSD working on this, and I want to get to the Q&A part of this so we can talk more about data centers.
Give Peter a round of applause. But the good news is we'll have 2 new members starting January 1st, and you just need 3 votes in PSC to get a majority. So we'll be bothering 1 other member of the commission to help us on these issues. But again, like Peter said, data centers in other parts of the country and those companies that are sort of backing them or have those clean energy goals, they can be powered by renewables. There is a pathway forward. Don't let anyone fool you to think that clean energy is more expensive, less reliable. You put together a package of renewables, energy efficiency, new technology, and we're already there. The technology exists. So that's really why I'm pushing for this clean energy requirement, because I don't want anyone to say, oh, we can't do it. It can be done. And those are just the stats there. So what was talked about 10,000 megawatts, that's 2 plant voters, all right? And then about 90% is really to meet that data center demand. Okay, a few more things, and these are things that actually came from y'all, because I heard a lot about, well, there might be regulations, but how do we know, right? I mean, right now we have co-compliance issues here in South DeKalb. Is that right? I mean, we have laws that says you can't dump tires on property. That you can't have just, broken windows and boarded up shops. You have to actually take care of your property. It's co-compliance right now, but how do you actually regulate that? So one of the things that one of y'all suggested is, well, let's get an auditor, right? The county audits things all the time. Auditors are independent. They're trained in their craft. And let's make sure that there's some special auditing department or consultant that is independent, probably through the Office of Independent Internal Audit, which actually reports the legislative delegation, not to us, that could actually go in and say, we are going to look at all the reports every quarter, every year. And that's the quarterly and then the quarterly compliance reporting is also a public report. So that way y'all can be the auditors, along with the official auditing. We currently have a resolution actually up at the BOC meeting next Tuesday to form a permanent environmental justice resident advisory board. And the goal here, all right, thank you. And again, there's a lot of environmental justice issues, so it's not just data centers. There's a lot of things that we can work on to address environmental justice. The goal of that committee is to put y'all at the table, because you know the things that need to change in your community, in your neighborhood, and we want to give you a platform and a voice to say, I actually have some ideas. I have some things I think we can do to remedy decades of environmental injustice and chart a path forward to a cleaner DeKalb County. And again, this advisory board will be made up of community members, and of course we'd love to have experts on there as well, so folks who have background in these things. Next slide. So we talked a little bit about that. The community benefits, I think, are really key, because if we have that special land use permit, then we can put conditions in there. The conditions are separate from actual zoning laws. And we have some limitations when it comes to zoning ordinances. You have to treat similar properties in a similar way. But SLUPs are special land use permits. They're special, all right, which means we can have special conditions. And this is when we can actually say, well, this is what the neighborhood actually would like to see come out of that. The protections we want, and a lot of this comes with buffers, right? It's very possible someone might say, I'd like a 1,000-foot buffer, right? I mean, there's opportunities here. We can be very creative with it. Next slide. Okay. A couple ideas that we've taken from around the country that are community benefit agreement type sort of models. And it really just results in investments. It's money. Money back into the community based on the things the community says we would like to see invested in. So we've seen workforce development, we've seen green infrastructure, we've seen trails, parks, paving roads, building sidewalks, additional public safety, air and water quality monitoring, noise monitoring, and any other direct benefits that we can do, investing in health clinics, investing in grocery stores. All right, the sky's the limit. I mean, we can do a lot with dedicated funding directly in the area, in the community. Next slide. Okay. All right, so we're going to open up here in just a minute, but I just want to give you kind of a preview of what's happening next week. I will say that I did speak with one of the lawyers in the law department on Tuesday, and it looks like, and we'll get a firm opinion hopefully by Friday, but it looks like because there have been substantial enough changes from the third version to the fourth version that the Zoning Procedures Act law is going to require a public hearing. Currently, the agenda item is slated for decision only, which means there's no public hearing. So in other words, we're probably going to have to defer the data center regulations to another meeting, and this of course is our last meeting, so it'll be in January. So just maybe a little bit of respite for y'all, like you don't have to kill yourselves for the holidays, but just know that there's an opportunity for more public comment and public input, and of course that public hearing is designed for y'all to directly speak to us at the meeting. So we are looking for a deferral. And because we're going to defer, if we defer those regulations, we would have to extend the moratorium, which again, that gives everyone a little bit of a pause. As long as that moratorium is in place, no applications can be received for data centers. Okay. Another public hearing that's going to happen because of the zoning law. We did get the 500-foot buffer in there, so that's good. And then we want to see a special land use permit for every application. No loopholes, no special conditions. Just have everyone that wants to do a data center has to come before you all. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, and then they can tell you what, they'll make promises. Everyone makes promises, okay? And you can listen to them and they can try to convince you that it's something that's going to be good. And if there's something that you think, okay, this actually sounds okay, but how do we know you're going to actually do it? That's where the community benefits agreement comes in. That is absolutely important, and we can do that through the special land use permit process. Okay, all right, well, we're going to open it up to Q&A, comments, questions. We have a lot of people here, so if you don't mind, just try to keep it to like a few minutes. Don't take the whole mic over for 5 or 10 minutes, because I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to say what's on their mind. Ask any questions, provide any comments, just say what you feel, not censoring anybody. This is just contact information for the commissioners. As a reminder, everyone in here has 2 commissioners. You have 1 super commissioner and 1 district commissioner. So just make sure that you communicate to your commissioners. Of course, we have Commissioner Bolton here tonight and me, so you got 2 commissioners listening. But it's really important that everyone just shares your thoughts moving forward. All right, now I'm going to ask the outreach team, Claire, to, are we going to pass the mic? Okay, great. All right.
I think people should come up because.
Oh, okay.
So
All right, we're just figure around that way. Okay. All right, so if you'd like to give comment or question, feel free just to walk over here, and then we'll just kind of cue you all out here so we kind of see you and just give you a chance to kind of get in line. And if you don't mind, just say your first name and maybe whereabouts in DeKalb you live.
Good evening, my name is Tanya. I live in Clarkston.
Oh, in Clarkston, wonderful.
Exactly. So, a couple of questions, quick questions. First, are there currently any data center applications before the board right now?
Yes, there is one that got in before the moratorium, and that is the one on Loveless Drive.
So what will happen with that one?
So the good news about that one, does everyone know about the Loveless Drive data center application? Okay. She asked if there was any data center application that is currently has been received, and the answer is yes. We got in before the moratorium was passed. It's the Loveless Drive data center proposal. Because it is in the Boulder Crest Overlay District, they have to go through a special land use permit. So it's already gone through public hearing. It's been deferred to the January 13th BOC meeting. And really the goal of deferring it is to get these regulations in place before we consider any application.
The follow-up question to that is, where are the strongest teeth in this current policy proposal? Like, where are the teeth? You know what I mean when I say that? Like, where can they be bit in the butt when, you know, they're doing something we don't like?
And I think that's where the compliance part comes in, because if we're saying you have to keep noise to a certain decibel, and that you can't produce and generate power on site, that you have to have a water management plan, and an energy plan, and a stormwater plan. If there's all these things that are required in the code, the question is, how do you actually monitor that?
Right, you're right.
Yeah, and so, you know, look, I mean, there's levels of engagement. There's the very basic code compliance. There's a $1,000 fine at magistrate court, right? The worst you could do is take away someone's business license. That's sort of like the extreme example of someone really abused the system, and now you cannot do business in DeKalb County, which means you cannot have an operating, you know, system, right? So I don't know if that would ever come to that, but the goal of that special auditing department is so that we have just an independent view of what's all happening, and so there's transparency.
Lastly, are you able to say where each of our board members stand on this current proposed policy?
I mean, I'll let them speak for themselves. Say something. Commissioner Gold?
Good evening, everybody. As Commissioner Terry indicated, I'm your Super District 7 Commissioner, Ladina Bolton. And the question was essentially, where do the commissioners, I'm going to speak for myself, what do the commissioners stand on this new text amendment? I am of the mind that regulation is key. In July, when Commissioner Terry proposed the moratorium, I seconded that. 4 commissioners supported it. We have 7 commissioners. And so that just barely passed, but we knew immediately that we needed to do something, otherwise we were in jeopardy of anything, right? And so in October, we did get a unanimous vote to extend the moratorium, which gave us more time to hear from you. We had public hearings, we did tours, data center tours, we came to some of your community meetings. Many of you did research, shared it with us, whether it was in a presentation or in a document. And so we got a lot of great ideas from what you shared. As Commissioner Terry indicated, I still believe there's still work to do. I know we're on the right track, but if nothing else, we need to continue having the conversation on what it would take to regulate in order to make sure our health, our safety, and quality of life is preserved.
Sure. Hi, my name is Stacey Shorts. I have one comment, which is, you talked in your presentation about environmental justice and how South DeKalb has borne the brunt of a lot of environmental projects that are not beneficial to the community immediately surrounding it. And I just want to say that it felt like very insincere to hear you acknowledge that, and then in the same breath, talk about how we're going to continue to put data centers in South DeKalb. The other thing that I wanted to say is, I've been to a lot of community meetings about this. I've shown up at the Board of Commissioners. Everything that I have seen, the community has said resoundingly that they do not want data centers. So my question to the commissioners is, why do you guys keep on talking about installing data centers and regulating data centers when the people have said they don't want them at all?
Great comment, and I agree. And so I'll maybe just like a couple high level, sort of just the law that we have to follow is we do not believe that you can do a permanent moratorium on data centers. Okay, that's just like in the law, we cannot have a permanent moratorium. There's constitutional issues there. Okay, and then remember also that no one, I didn't invite anyone to build data centers, right? And DeKalb can't, I guess we could invite people, but as far as I know, no one's invited anyone to build data centers. And in fact, the reason why we did the moratorium is to put a pause, because before that moratorium went into effect, a data center could come in as a storage unit. All right, that's like a loophole in the law, right? Because we had no regulations whatsoever. So they could have been allowed by rights, and then we would have no decision-making in the process. So the key thing to remember is the special land use permit, okay? Special land use permit means it has to be voted on, all right? Otherwise, it's by rights. By right means no one here to say anything, all right? It's just administrative. A special land use permit it's a board courtesy thing, all right? So that's another little tweak in our in our code, board courtesy. Where a zoning or land use decision is being made, it's the two commissioners that have board courtesy. In our organizational act, the whole commission cannot approve any of those changes unless at least one commissioner gives the affirmative. So in other words, if the two commissioners say no to a special land use permit for a data center, it cannot happen. As simple as that. But again, if we don't have that process, then we have no say, we have no vote. So I think what we're trying to set up is the foundational guardrails and the bare minimum and what you have to do. But then the special land use permit allows us to go even further. And look, my position as a commissioner is I listen to the people. I don't get involved in land use and zoning decisions until it's gone through community council, planning commission, and the public hearings, and then I engage, because I don't want to, interfere with the process. The way the system is designed is we have to hear from the public first, all right? And so I want to listen first, okay? And then when it gets to us about 2 months later, that's how long it takes to go through all of those meetings, then it's in our hands, and then we have an opportunity to actually decide. But if we don't have that slot, then we have no decision in the process. Oh, yeah.
Okay, and really quickly, I just want to add to that. So I've only been a commissioner literally today for 365 days. So thank you, thank you. So there were some things that I learned with respect to the question that you asked that I didn't realize when I was sitting on that side 366 days ago. So as commissioner, there are things that I didn't agree with, so I would make the motion to deny. And the next step would be that corporation, that business would sue because of a decision that I made, which isn't a big deal because we have 13 attorneys, really good attorneys. They'll fight, do what they have to do. Now, y'all, this is the problem. If we say no data centers whatsoever, and there's no legal standing for that, when they sue, then we lose all of our rights to regulate what we want. They can sue and get what they want. This way, when we regulate on the front end, we tell them what we will allow in our communities. So essentially, we're protecting ourselves by creating regulations as opposed to suing and letting the courts say, go ahead and build whatever you wanted to build in the first place. In DeKalb County, the commissioners and the residents, you no longer have a me and what they're gonna do, because they won this court case, and it's whatever they wanted to build, they will be allowed to build. So this is a safety net for us, you guys. It's not a means to bring businesses, data centers, we do own businesses, but it's a means to protect us from the unknown when we go through the court system. That is a real thing, and I know because I've been sued several times as a commissioner on account of not wanting liquor stores, not wanting gas stations, not wanting dollar stores. I've said no to so many things, and they come back, and we have no leg to negotiate and no leg to stand on.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, sir.
Yes, first and foremost, I'd like to give honor to the Most High. And I'd like to know, there's nothing here in reference to the property value of our homes. There's nothing there. We talk about pollution, what have you. But as far as how is this going to do as far as the property value? Those people that's talking about over there, that they talk about putting those centers in, man, they property value is going to go way down, way down. I don't know if anybody's familiar with what's going on in Memphis. And you can very well see this is grounds for us to not even be bothered with these daycare, these data centers. And the property value is, we have infrastructure here in this county that needs to be repaired. I've been looking at water running down Wildcat Road for the last year and a half. And like you said, they put that pressure on that water coming from North DeKalb, boy, we're gonna be in big time trouble back down here. All the filth, everything is horrible coming in this county down here. The infrastructure is horrible. Horrible. Water running, what have you, pipes busting. We really catching it down here. So if we bring that in here, we asking for more problems. Big time problems.
Thank you. And you bring up a good point, because in the special land use permit process, it allows the public and the Board of Commissioners to take a wider view. Because the zoning and land use regulation is very site-specific. It's about what you can do on that piece of land. The special land use permit allows us to think about what are the impacts to surrounding communities. And it becomes a leverage point to say, well, if you're trying to do something what happened in Memphis, and if I remember correctly, they had like hundreds of generators out there running 24/7. Or was that diesel generators pollute the air? That is absolutely awful and should never be allowed. I don't know how they got it over there in Memphis. Must have been a loophole. But I can say with 100% certainty that no data, based on the draft regulations we have now, no data center can generate power on site. You cannot run diesel generators 24/7. So thankfully, y'all told us about Memphis, and we said, nah, no way, no how. So that absolutely cannot happen. Now, you mentioned earlier about investing in the community. Some of the projections, I'm just going to be straight with you all, as transparent as I can, because I want to make sure I have all the information. One of the, and I guess that's the Loveless Drive application that's before us right now. They are estimating, and they did get a letter from the tax assessor's office, Mr. Calvin Hicks. That will be a $1 billion development. $1 billion based on our ad valorem tax rate equals about $26 million a year. Okay? So, and I know for a fact, because I've talked with Dr. Rigsby over here, we're working on a small area plan, and there's a plan from 10 years ago that never really got implemented. And I guarantee you there's $26 million of things on that small area plan list: sidewalks, parks, grocery stores, restaurants, new economic development. All right, and that plan is 15-year plan. So this is why the community benefits agreement is so important. And look, I understand this is the no data center, never ever crowd. I get it. And that's okay, because again, the SLUT process allows y'all to say what you want based on that application. I just want to keep in mind, and this is really just, Christmas is coming up, if you could have your Christmas list of what you would improve in your neighborhood. And I know we want sidewalks on River Road. I know we want Boulder Crest Park improved. I know we want Sugar Creek improved. These are a couple things I know that some of y'all told me about for years. We want more security. We want our roads paved. Okay?
Scholarship for students.
Scholarships for students. Oh, and that 26 million, that's just the county. The school system gets about 30 million. All right? So I just want to be very transparent with y'all. The reason why communities around Georgia have said yes to data centers is because it brings tax revenues to those local governments. Simple as that. Now, some of those communities didn't have regulations, so they just came right in. And you see a lot of those really awful stories about them tapping into the well water and then having no light monitoring. So now the light is like this huge glow out in the farmlands. You can see it from 20 miles away. It's just like an orb causing light pollution. All of these detrimental impacts because there was no regulations. So that's the foundation. All right. All of those things that you've heard about that are bad about data centers, the regulations say you can't do them. Simple as that. You can't do them. So just keep that in mind. Yes, sir.
Property value you asked about.
Okay, so about the property values, that is a legitimate reason to deny a special land use permit.
Oh, yeah. But why not send them to notification? We gotta come with something else.
And there's a map we'll share with you online. There is a GIS map where you can actually see where a data center would be allowed based on the buffer requirements, the current land use zoning. So there's a couple places in North DeKalb. There's a few places around the DeKalb Farmers Market, and then there's several places across South DeKalb, from around the Stonecrest area all the way to Elwood. Several.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Dr. Jeff Fungoy, Sr. and I've been fighting this fight for months now. I'm fighting with a group in Rockdale County, fighting with a group in Newton County. Same thing. One of the biggest problems that we have is we got duped and we're fighting from behind. We're at the back end of the race because the state did not notify us from the beginning, and they fell for the 52 fake out on tax breaks with these guys, thinking that it was going to bring some money to us. But at the cost of what? You can't grow land back. Once it's used and abused, you cannot grow more land. This 95-acre data center that is proposed is the equivalent of using 85,000 average-sized single-family homes. Now, they describe a single-family home as somewhere between 1,800 to 2,200 square feet. 85,000 single-family homes. That's the energy approximated that we would need to use to have this 95-acre data center. That's not talking about the water that is needed to cool it, and then the wastewater that goes into our aquifers that pollute our land and kill us over time. The fight at this point, since we're fighting from behind, is we need to make sure that they are far away from residential districts. The other part of that, and I listen to Bloomberg Radio, and listen to all the tech speculators. The tech speculators and all the experts in tech say that in 10 years, data centers will be useless. Now, hear me out. What happens to the data center once it's useless? It's in our neighborhood. We have to get rid of it. We have to mitigate all of that land. That means we got to clean it up. It's going to take years, and all the time they pay no taxes. So we lose all the way around. So who makes up for that tax? Absolutely. The other part of that is the state got duped on the fact that it's going to provide plenty of jobs. Those jobs are temporary construction jobs. I can tell you now, from the months of data that I've looked at, you can't even find people qualified in these locations to work and run the data centers. Which means that why didn't the state make a deal and say, well, I tell you what, let's put some money into our education system and make sure that we provide the education for people to have those high-paying jobs to run these tech centers. But our state never asked these questions. People, we got to continue to fight. It's not over. What we can do is make sure that these are outside, away from our neighborhoods. Full disclosure, I am a candidate for the 13th Congressional District in the state of Georgia. But I also live here. And I drink this water. And I breathe this air. So whether I run, whether I win, whether I lose, I'm fighting with you.
Dr. Jeff. Okay, great. A lot of great points there. I am recalling that when DeKalb passed our moratorium, 2 other counties called us and said, can we do the same? So Jeff's exactly right. We are not alone. And in fact, actually, Peter kind of alluded to, this last election was really about power bills and data centers. And what's really interesting is when you look at the poll numbers, more Republicans are against data centers than Democrats. It's like 80 to 70, right? It's not a huge margin, but think about that. Because there's areas of Georgia, exurban and rural, where the really big, those 95-acre ones, no regulation, tapping into the well water, light pollution, other lax regulations, those people are really suffering.
Coweta County.
And I think Coweta County's got something going on now. Clayton County called. Clayton County had already allowed 3 data centers around the corner from the one that's being proposed on Level's Drive. And Clayton County said, whoa, things are getting out of hand. Because they came in real quick. They came in real quick. There was no public hearing. It was all by rights. So this is why this special land use permit is so important. One thing I referenced about community benefits agreements. So we have seen in other jurisdictions very clear investments annually committed to workforce development training. And I know every summer we do the WorkSource DeKalb Youth Jobs Program, paying $15 an hour. They work 40 hours a week all throughout the summer. I want to say it's like around 2,000 young people. That's about $1 million to run that program every year that we just do because it's important for youth jobs, youth development, give the kids something to do during the summer so they're not getting into trouble. What would you do if you had another $1 million to put into that? That's 2,000 more kids. Another $3 million, that's another 1,000 kids. So I just want y'all to understand that in that special land use permit process, and if you have these concerns, we don't want it to go to talk about the aquifer, it's going to go to the sewer plant. All right, but what about the runoff? Well, green infrastructure. What about what's happening? You mentioned Memphis. Don't know what's happening in Memphis. Can't do it. All of these things we can make sure are in the conditions of the special land use permit. Now, I want to apologize to y'all because I can't take a definitive stance on potential future applications, right? I can't prejudge a future application. But I just want you to know I hear you and I'm listening to you. The purpose of that SLUT process is so that y'all are in the driver's seat, basically. You are the decision makers. We're here to represent, we're here to listen. All right? Gotta keep an open mind. All right? I will always keep an open mind. That's just the way the system works. But I'm listening to my constituents. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Brown. I'm a lifelong DeKalb County resident, born and raised here. The data center that's being proposed on Loveless Drive is literally in my backyard. So I am extremely concerned about what was happening with that. With that being said, I've gone to the last several commission meetings. Within the last meeting, the proposal from the planning commission was to deny the application for that property. However, the commissioners voted to defer instead. One of the things I'm wondering is, the lawyer himself for that data center essentially said that because he put in the application before the text amendment was approved, that he essentially doesn't really have to follow any of the things that come from it. He said that out of his own mouth. So what can we do to protect against that particular application other than just outright denying it, as well as, and I do appreciate you guys explaining the fact that we have to have some regulations versus just a flat out no, because that was one of my other biggest questions, because the consensus seems to be we don't want it at all, but if there has to be something, I understand where you guys are coming from a little bit better now, so you probably communicate that a little better, just in general. But yeah, my biggest question is, how can we protect against what that lawyer said, which is I don't have to follow the text amendment? And my second question would be, for big capital projects, there's usually a tax abatement period. How long is the tax abatement period, which they don't have to pay no taxes for this big giant billion-dollar project, since eventually we want to see some kind of benefit monetarily from it if it's going to be in our community?
Great questions, great points. So on the first point, yes, the Loveless Drive application got in before the moratorium, so they're actually applying as a utility structure. So we have to follow that line of a utility structure. It's still a special land use permit, so we still have all the leverage in this situation, and the purpose of deferring, quite frankly, is to make sure the regulations are set. They still have to follow the regulations, all right, because a lot of the regulations aren't related necessarily to just the land use and zoning, it's actually the development of the land. Okay, so that's number one. Like, the legal advice we've been given is the moratorium has to be done, we have the regulations in place, and then we can consider, okay, and that's just the order of operations. So on the tax abatements thing, I mean, as Peter said, there's some state tax incentives, but DeKalb has no policy on tax abatements for data centers. In fact, actually, the only entity that really could do a tax abatement, and does do it from time to time, is DeKalb, which is our development authority. And I guarantee you, I will be very upset if they give a tax abatement for a data center, because they've got the money, they don't need the tax breaks, all right? Now, Peter mentioned the reason why they're coming to Georgia is because they're getting some tax breaks from the state side. And, it is what it is. They made a decision years ago. Maybe they thought they were going to just get a couple data centers, but with Georgia Power and those tax incentives, they're all coming to Georgia. We are now the data center capital of America. It used to be Loudoun County, Virginia. Georgia has more data centers than anywhere else. So it's already here. That's right. Jeff reminded me, he said something about, you said as well, but this idea that there's an AI bubble. Anyone heard that? And Peter's heard that. In fact, actually, that was kind of his argument, was we're going to do 10,000 megawatts of new power, but it's only a third subscribed. So do we even need those 10,000 megawatts? And do we really need to pay $60 billion over the next 45 years? Which, I mean, I'm not going to be around for that long, maybe, but maybe I will. That's a long time. That's a lot of money. And if we don't need to build a new natural gas plant, let's not do it. Let's not do it. So we've heard that Microsoft is venue shopping. We've heard that data centers have actually been pulled off the sort of the proposal line because actually there is concern. The Financial Times had an article last week. Energy traders, the folks who follow the energy markets, are saying we think that the whole thing is overcooked and oversubscribed. It's the makings of a bubble. So the last thing I want is for us to get stuck with an empty building where there could be houses, there could be other economic developments, right? Now, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what the future's going to be. But we just have to be very skeptical and very diligent about all the things that we see happening around the country and around the world. And again, like as Peter talked about, that data center price increase is really only now just kicking in. we're only now really we're gonna start to feel it if the PSC votes next Friday for that 10,000 megawatts, and maybe more to come. We'll see. Yes, sir.
Good evening, my name is Kabe Kemne. I'm a DeKalb resident in Decatur. One suggestion, it's not so one suggestion that I think might be useful and will harness the energy behind data center and respond to a lot of the concerns here is to regulate them such that they will have to pay into a fund that will go into providing solar and storage for the homes and the businesses around there, such that that will reduce their peak demand, trying to save them money in the long run, but also will benefit the community. And the concern about them leaving in 10 years, well, we still would have been left with all that solar in the neighborhood. So, and then all the property values would go up in solar. So there's a lot of these boxes will be checked if they contribute to solarizing the distribution area.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's a concept, y'all can look it up, it's called a virtual power plant. It's just the general idea that you can install renewable energy somewhere on the grid, and that's feeding electrons to the grid, which are offsetting other fossil fuel uses. Now, there's another concept, look it up, do some research on it, called a microgrid. Peter can talk all day long about microgrids. So, think about this. We know climate change is happening, we know global warming is getting worse. In fact, actually, I was on a call with NACO, the National Association of County Officials, this afternoon, talking about data centers. And we had a climate scientist from the international organization present on the climate impact of data centers. And he had one little chart on there that, every year I'm amazed because it is the average temperature of the Earth from a baseline of when we started recording it, like in the early 70s, I think. It was like a little bar chart, okay? And in the 70s, and the 80s, and the 90s, it was just little tiny increases. You get into the 2000s, and now we are getting to every year since about 2001 has been the hottest year on record on Earth. And we right now, and the year's not over, but last year was the hottest year in recorded history. And this year is like neck and neck. We're like right there. And it doesn't go down. If it goes down a little bit, it goes back up next year. So we are on a trajectory where we have got to stop building fossil fuel plants. It is an imperative. But we know it's happening. We know that storms like Hurricane Helene, that was a big storm. Just imagine Helene 3 times worse. And instead of losing power for a day or two, what if we lose power for a week, 2 weeks? That means that nothing can happen behind closed doors, get snuck in, by right, without any of y'all's inputs. And look, I feel you. It'd be great if we could have a state law that says local jurisdictions can decide they don't want to have data centers. There could be a law. That'd be great. I would love that. But we have to follow the law. We cannot mandate a larger distance than 500 feet because that is the existing legal distance for all industrial property. So in order for us to pass an amendment to extend that 500 feet to 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet, now we're talking about upending all of the industrial manufacturing zoning, which could open us up to a lawsuit and could be legally dubious. So, I feel you, like some of these things are baked into the system, all right? There's federal law, there's state law, there's things that we just have to follow. But the absolute imperative is that we have our own local regulations. And I can tell you right now that all of the regulations out there in Georgia, and maybe even in the country, this right now, this 4th draft, which I promise you we have listened to you, because you don't have 4 drafts over almost 6 months, and you ain't listened to anybody. And a lot of y'all made us aware of things that we didn't know about. And now they're in the draft ordinance. And as I said earlier, it ain't 100% there yet. We're getting close. And even if we got to the perfect regulations and we said everything is perfect, it still doesn't matter because it still goes back to y'all. And if you look at all of those protections, look at all the potential community benefits agreements, and you say, no, we're going to pass. We're good. We don't want it. I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to listen to that. I take that very, very seriously. I do not want to entertain any land use or zoning change that's going to piss all y'all off. Okay? Because I don't work for data center companies. I don't work for gas stations or liquor stores. I work for y'all. Y'all pay my salary. I work for you. I'm here to represent your voice on the Board of Commissioners. I will take that with me every single day. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Faye Copeville, and I am the Executive Director of the Evelyn Stokes Foundation. Our only mandate is the empowerment of marginalized communities. That's it. And I have to tell you that if you've ever gotten mail from me personally or from our foundation, we say one thing: courage, standing up when everybody else remains seated. Courage is having some backbone when everybody else is seated. So I encourage each one of you, I'm going to be very brief, I encourage each one of you to go home tonight and see one movie, the 1970s movie, Colossus, the Foreman Project. And it predicted everything that's happening right now. Now, here is my problem with data centers. First of all, you only want 500 feet. 500 feet is not enough of a distance. We have a problem with some of these other things. You say about the water. My water went out because something broke up on the north side. So that's a problem. We also, you talk about they can't do solar. I live on the African continent. Solar was cheap on the African continent. Like the young man said before me, we bow to greed. We do not bow to the people. We have, you say, well, there's the tax money that's coming in here. For decades, we have heard about tax money coming and there's going to be an improvement. I have been a home owner in South DeKalb for 46 years. And all I have seen is a decline in everything in South DeKalb. All I have seen is us to go from one of the wealthiest Black communities in the United States to someplace where we are being forced down. Now you say, okay, they've got all of these things, but they got some space on the north side. I don't hear about them going to the north side. We have a problem with what is going to happen here. And once this data center is built, and once these other data centers are built, we're not going to be able to have any type of positive growth at all. None, nada whatsoever. We will continue to be the dumping ground. We have got to just have some courage down there at the Board of Commissioners and just stand up and say, look, this is what we're going to do. You are going to pay your fair share of the taxes. We're not going to put it on the citizens. You want electricity, you build your own plant. We're not going to put it on the taxpayers. They can do everything they want to do. And this is honest. 98% of the people in this country are controlled by 2%. And they come in here, they bow down, and they threaten to sue you, and they get up and make all these things, and they bring their fancy lawyers in. Well, here's what I'll say, and I'll say this in conclusion. I am old school civil rights. I'm not ashamed to say that I remember the Birmingham Crusade. I remember the Selma Crusade. I remember Montgomery. And I remember that people stood up for some backbone, and we had elected officials that had the backbone to say, we will fight you until hell freezes over, and then we will put on some skates and fight you you on the ice.
Thank you, Faye, and I do get Faye's emails, and I read them. I will definitely check out Colossus from 1970s. I never heard of that before, but I'll definitely check that out. Very interesting. I'm glad you brought up sort of that history. I'm reminded of a saying that came out of the civil rights movement: "Don't tell me what you believe, show me what you've done." Because, look, I'm a politician, right? And I've been around a lot of politicians over many years. Politicians love to talk, especially when they need your votes, right? Amen. But will they act? Will they walk? What are they doing? The actions that we take, the votes that we take, the positions that we advocate for is what really matters. There's another version of that saying that says, "Don't tell me what you believe, show me your budget." And that's exactly what I was picking up from a lot of y'all. Where's the money? Where's the money going, and where is it not going? And the reality is that there has been underinvestment in South DeKalb for decades. Would y'all agree with that? Amen. And I already pointed out that some of the most lucrative, we call them honeypots, because they are pieces of land that are worth millions of dollars. They are in South DeKalb. There already is economic development and revenue being generated that are coming into the county coffers from businesses and industry in DeKalb County. But where is the investment? Where is the investment? I'm focused on that. The whole theory of environmental justice is not just acknowledging something bad happened, it's actually going back and fixing it. It's mitigating it, it's remedying it. Redress, reparations. You have to put money into the problem, into the situation. You've been underinvested in, well then you need to invest more. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erin. I live in Stone Mountain. Just for reference, I got into politics Bernie Sanders' first run, and I remember when you were running and how excited we were to see someone like you running, how we knew we were eventually going to have to go against you. And I know that you're saying that you're against, that we can't put a moratorium in place, but I think the disconnect is that these meetings feel like soft marketing for the data centers. Like you're trying to pacify us with these reports that we know, one, may not happen, and two, will not ever make up for the damage that's going to be done by these data centers. Whether it's the water pollution, the electrical bills, the blighted buildings, if the bubble works. So what we would like, so that you understand what we want, and the moratorium isn't possible, we would like these meetings to be focused on setting that bar so high that no one can meet it, so that we have an impact. We don't want to hear what you said because it sounds very much like lip service, again, like the sister said, how you talk about environmental justice. As we discuss bringing in more environmental injustice, don't do that to us. We've been hearing trust women, trust black women, leftists, I guess. We want to be able to trust y'all. But if every time we come to the table, it sounds like you're representing your agents for the data centers, you're destroying that trust. And now instead of us working together to improve the county, we got to find new replacements.
I appreciate those comments. I love it when people call me out because that's my job. I'm not here for me. I'm not here to get my name on a building. I'm here to represent y'all. So I appreciate the criticism. In fact, actually, I heard from a lot of y'all saying we didn't get any time to talk about this the last several meetings. And some of the other data center meetings, you fill out a comment card and someone reads it. This is the only town hall where we just gave you the mic. And I mean, there ain't no time limit on it. The line here, as long as we can be in this building, we will be here. And I'm already advocating for another public hearing, to continue this discussion. So I will always be on the side of public comment, a public hearing, a public input, no censorship, no confines, good old-fashioned town hall meetings. Just say what you gotta say. And break no shield between me and y'all. And this is important because that question might have gotten screened a moderated town hall. But I don't care. I don't mind. I want to hear it. I'm trying to uphold and reflect what y'all want to see. And it is exactly true that if there was, and in my mind, if there was a way to set the bar so high, I'd be there. But there's only so high that bar can go. I truly believe, and, well, that's right, because earlier I said the ordinance wasn't perfect. I'm trying to get more things added to it. And I want y'all to review the version 4, because if you have specific changes that you want to make, let us know. Okay? We're already in the posture to defer this into January. So you actually have time to go through it line by line and say, this is not strong enough. We need just a change. We need that to change. That's the whole process. 4 versions, a lot of changes we made already. We're not there yet. What's it? Okay. Just very quickly, I want to just recognize our Executive Director of our Georgia chapter of the Sierra Club, G. Weber, to talk a little bit about what's happening at the state level.
Hey y'all, Adrian Weber. I'm going to keep it really quick. I'm the state director for the Sierra Club. I'm a lifelong resident of DeKalb County. I live in Midway Woods, right up the road. I just wanted to mention one thing. We're talking a lot about January. We're talking a lot about local policy. There is going to be multiple bills that we are working on during the legislative session, which starts in January, down at the state capitol. So just head down the highway. So we are working on 3 bills right now around data centers. I think that one bill that y'all as residents of DeKalb can really push around is we're trying to get a disclosure bill passed that will make data centers have to actually report out how much water they're using, how much power they're using. And what we can do with that at the local level is once we start getting that data and we can get that legislation passed, y'all can go to your local commissioners, you can go to your state reps, you can go to your federal reps, and you can talk about the actual impacts. The problem is these data centers are getting a state tax break, and then they're not having to report out any of the things they're doing. So we're giving them our taxpayer dollars, and there's no transparency around it. So that's a bill by Debbie Buckner. I'm gonna send you information about it so Ted can get it out back to y'all. But we do have the state legislation that we are also working on this. And the most important thing is to continue talking to your local representatives, because the most powerful lobbyists down in the state capitol are your local representatives, like Commissioner Terry. So just keep it going. And then the only other thing I'm going to say is, remember that we have a PSC election next year. We have to re-elect Peter, and then we have to get another commissioner in there. So continue to talk to your neighbors about this. Continue to talk about bills, because we need to keep Peter there to be a voice on the commission, but we have to keep the drumbeat going into next year. So we will be sending you all more information about what you can be doing at the state level. But it's a really good year to be pushing for the state policy, because politicians are afraid of losing their elections. And so we really have to leverage it being a political year and make them scared and make them know that y'all are pissed off about this. And you should be pissed off about it, because it's a whole lot of BS in my opinion.
Amen.
So anyways, thank y'all so much for being here. I'm so proud to call DeKalb County home. Thank you so much.
And we're going to be at the Capitol too, lobbying on all the things that Adrian talked about.
The only problem with that is they tried to do that last year during the legislative session, but the governor
Vetoed it. That's right. That's right. Well, look, it is an election year, and as I pointed out, so she just pointed out that there was a bill that did pass, I believe, to repeal those tax breaks, but the governor vetoed it. Okay, but this next year's election year, I already told you that more Republicans are against data centers than Democrats. We have a Republican majority, so we'll do the math there. We're going to be lobbying at the not only the PSC but the General Assembly. We have a lobbying team. They're tracking all these bills. So what we can do at the state level, very important. So I appreciate Adrian mentioned that. Okay, so just a time check here. We got started about 5 minutes late. I promise we're going to do 2 to 1. All right, I spoke for about 30 minutes, so that means y'all get an hour. So we have about 5 more minutes to get us to that 2 to 1 ratio, and then we have to close the building up because staff have to get everything out of here by 8 o'clock. So let's take a few more comments and questions in the next 5 minutes, and then we'll close with just a call to action. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Kwanda. Rockdale County, Henry County, Clayton County, and Fulton County. You cannot talk about data centers in South DeKalb County without being aware of what's going on around South DeKalb County. Currently, there is a 750,000 square foot data center being built on the Rockdale side of the DeKalb County border on 72 acres of land in Lifelong and Stonecrest. There is a 700,000 square feet data center being built on the Clayton County side of the border on 36 acres of land. This is the bordering DeKalb County. There is a 100-acre parcel of land designated by DCATL4 for data centers right on the Fulton County border of DeKalb County. So if on all sides of South DeKalb County, there are already data centers being built that will truly impact South DeKalb County, why are we looking to put one in South DeKalb County? Make that make sense. People in South DeKalb County are going to be adversely impacted by what's going on in Rockdale County, Clayton County, and Fulton County. South DeKalb County cannot afford to have a 1 million square foot data center on 95 acres of land in the southern corner of the county. We can't afford that. And you talk about a 500 feet barrier. Well, Boxtown, which is the community in Memphis, is 2 miles from AI Rock. And those people are dying from respiratory illnesses for 2 miles. And the more that I have people there who live near the data center in Fayette County, 2 or 3 miles away. And they are being adversely affected in their health in Fayette County. Okay, now the other part of this is data centers in Douglas County, Walden County, Troup County, those data centers are on parcels of land that are anywhere from 300 acres of land to 1,000 acres of land. They are not surrounding any residential areas, none. So even those communities don't want data centers. But you're talking about putting a 1 million square foot data center in a residential community. Where data centers are already surrounding residential communities on much smaller parcels of land. That really sounds a lot like racial bias and discrimination. Going to Walden County or Douglas County or some outlying county and putting a data center on 500 acres of land and then putting that same size data center on 32 acres of land or 70 acres of land. What does that do to the surrounding community? And then saying 500 feet is enough feet for it not to impact anybody, but there's documented evidence, and I had an epidemiologist at my meeting who verified this. There's documented evidence to say people up to 5 miles are negatively impacted in their health by massive scale data centers. You cannot make that make sense. I am asking you, on behalf of everybody in this room, don't do that to us. We deserve that. I will work with you on the text amendment because I have a solution. I've been to the meetings. I've read all the information. As you can see, I can tell you names, dates, places. I have the information, and I have a solution.
Okay, awesome, great. This is exactly the kind of feedback that we need because, again, we're hopefully in a posture to defer this into January. We'll make sure all of our email and contacts are up there, so make sure you save that information. All right, last 1 or 2 and we gotta get out of here.
All right. Thank you for hosting. I have a solution. Okay? First of all, I would like to see the law that says that you cannot ban.
opposition. So they telling us they can't be blocked, and here all over the country they blocking them. And they're saying that the local activism threatens to derail U.S. data centers. So why they telling us black folks that it's got to happen? That's not true. Go to datacenter.org. That's number one. Number two, I'm a physician. I want to know, where is the public health impact statement? You're going to be releasing carcinogens into the water. You're going to be releasing carcinogens and other pollutants into the air. We got enough cancer. We got enough asthma. We got enough sickness. We don't want it. We don't need no more. We're overburdened. Where is the public health impact statement of how this is going to affect our health? Where are the studies? I got papers, a stack of papers this thick. I'll do the study for you if you don't have nobody. Okay? Because I've done the research. I've done the research, and it's increasing the cancer rates. It's increasing the respiratory illness rates. Everybody gonna be on oxygen. Ain't nobody gonna want to buy our homes. Our home value is gonna go down because who's gonna want to buy our homes and come over here and get sick? We don't need it. So we say no. No. We're gonna leave the rest of it. We can't get on this planet for a millennium without data centers. We can live without.
Well, I have a challenge for you. You are some very smart commissioners, right? We got a chemist here, we got a lawyer, we got a civil engineer. We got a lot of smart people. Why don't you come up with a data center ordinance that allows small, minor, and medium, and prohibits large-scale data centers? Now, the way you do that is you have reasonable and solid evidence as to why it's a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Don't tell me people can come in here and build anything unless we write regulations. That is just a way to pacify us. If you can't say no as a commissioner to development that's harmful to our community, then why do we elect you? I don't believe it. So take those 13 lawyers that you have up there in the CEO's office, hire some lawyers if you need to. Fight for us instead of fighting for the data centers. That's what we have to have.
Thank you, Gina. So show of hands, who would like to see a requirement for a public health assessment? I would be happy to propose that. I think it's a great idea. Totally agree with that. I think we do that for a lot of projects. In fact, that was the whole PDK thing just last month, is there was $1 million health and environment study before anything could even be considered. So I think there's an opportunity for us to embed stricter regulations, stricter studies. And again, I'm going to keep coming back to the ultimate stop. The ultimate stop is the special land use permit. The reason why those $64 billion in data centers have been delayed or stopped is because there had to be a public vote. If we have no regulations, then it's by right, and there's no way to stop it with our vote.
That's not
Okay?
true.
Well, I'm just saying as it exists now. If you pass the ordinances, then you have what's allowed and what's not allowed. So I will talk to the lawyers about the idea of no major campuses. I know, Gina, you brought that up several times. I will ask them again to respond and opine on the legality of a strict size limit. Okay?
You want a referendum? Let's have the county vote on it.
Okay, I love referendums. We cannot do a referendum. Because Georgia's not a petition-driven referendum state. The legislature, in theory, could do a referendum, but we'll talk to Representative Viola Davis about that one. But, counties cannot do binding referendums. Counties cannot do binding. I've tried counties, trust me. Yes, they do have to pay property taxes. They just don't pay state taxes. All right, so everyone make sure you have your commissioner's number and email. Again, we're going to send out again the link to version 4. I'm hoping that we'll defer this. That's the goal. That's my vote, is to defer this. I'm not ready to approve anything. Extend the moratorium.